check out Cajun Lights, your complete dog hunting outfitter. Tracking equipment, leashes, collars, dog supplies, and much, much more. You can find it all at CajunLights.com. And don't forget their outstanding lineup of lights. You can find it all at CajunLights.com. You know what app I use on my phone more than any other app, besides the podcast app, to listen to this here podcast? I use onX. onX Maps is the most comprehensive mapping system for hunters on the market today. I use it all the time. When I was in New Mexico, I was looking at 40,000 acres of ranch that I needed to learn. I flip open onX and just start studying the map. When I'm riding trails, I put the tracking app on. It helps me get around in strange country. I could mark water sources, food sources, bear sign, just all kinds of options within onX. You need to check out onX Maps by going to houndsmanxp.com. Click on the link on our sponsor page. You'll go right to onX Maps, and when you check out, enter the code HXP20 and you will get 20% off of your order. Know where you stand with onX. Elite nutrition products are the hottest thing on the market right now for dog and horse owners. And Houndsman XP is a dealer. You can find all their products on our website at houndsmanxp.com. Over the past 5 years, you've tuned into this podcast, and I don't take it lightly. We have built a mutual trust. And when I recommend a product, it's because I believe in it, I use it, and I'm given my seal of approval for that. I'm putting my name on that. And with Elite Nutrition products, I do trust it. I do use it. I've seen great results with their essential dogs, their pre and probiotics, their tick-borne disease treatment. It's all natural. It's a great alternative to pharmaceuticals when used appropriately. If you expect extreme performance, you need Elite Nutrition. Available from houndsmanxp.com.
Just goofing around so much, we realized we needed to get back to get our birds out of the weathering yard. So Jack is driving like a madman. He and Lou are in the front, Rusty and I are in the back. I had just opened up a can of Diet Coke, and there was a railroad track. It was all grown up. The stop sign was down in the ditch. He hits that railroad track, and it was the Dukes of Hazzard. All four wheels left the ground. We hit, on his dashboard, he had traditional hoods and pigeon harnesses. Everything went in the air, flipped over, landed back on the dashboard. My Coke is floating in the air.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, and this is another episode that was recorded while I was at the 2024 NAFA meet in Liberal, Kansas, and this guest has been requested by several people, and after meeting her for the second time, I believe it was, at this meet, it was easy to understand why so many people have wanted to hear her tell her story and talk about some of her falconry experiences, and she's a very animated, a very fun person to be around, and it was a lot of fun recording this with her and getting to know her a little bit better. So I hope you enjoy hearing from Francie Forrester, and as always, jump right in, and here we go.
Well, good morning, Francie.
Good morning, John.
I was really excited that we were able to coordinate this. As I told you the other day, we've had a few people, or I've had a few people, I should say, requests that, it's like, man, you should record Miss Francie, and I was just like, well, I talked to her last NAFA meet, and if I see her there again this year, then maybe I'll try and make that happen. And I'm glad I ran into you in the elevator the other day, and we got it figured out. So
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
You kind of twisted my arm the second time, so I didn't want to tell you no.
Yeah, well, you can just blame it on everybody else, because I've had a few people that, I had to work on for a while, and personally I gave up, but there was because of peer pressure and a couple of people's cases, some bourbon. Sometimes that makes people more agreeable. I was able to finally get some people on that other people wanted to hear and everything. But I try my best not to hound people too much. Everybody's got different comfort levels and all that kind of stuff. But you, I mean, I've seen and heard you socialize. I know you can talk and have a good conversation. So I was looking forward to this.
Wonderful.
How's your week been?
It's been grand.
Yeah.
We've had so much fun. Started last Saturday, finding places, hunting, and it's just been great. The weather is unbelievable for Kansas.
It's been pretty nice this week as far as that goes. It hasn't been too windy either.
No.
There's only been one day where I thought the wind was kind of a little, on the higher side, but still by Kansas standards, it's been pretty nice.
It has been wonderful.
Yeah. So are you one of these folks that likes taking out other groups and stuff?
Oh, yes, we do. And I've got an NV 3500 12-passenger van. We just load it up with folks and go.
It's always nice whenever there's people that are willing to do that, because there's so many people that come to these meets. And in years past, I think this is my third NAFA meet, and this is the first time, I know, just even myself and being in falconry 10 years, this is the first time I've actually flown a bird at a NAFA meet. So, in years past, when I've come, it's mainly been the recordings and stuff that's been the main focus and all that kind of stuff. But this year, there was no reason not to bring a bird. And so, for people that aren't even hardly into it at all, just getting into it, haven't seen much, it's always nice that, people have been doing it for a long time. People such as yourself are willing to take other people out that really haven't got a chance to see a whole lot yet. So
I find that with the new people, they usually they're hesitant to go ask a landowner. And we very rarely hunt on the land that they have, a proportion for us. So, but it's very easy to go talk to people. I've only had one man in 30 years, and he just kept saying, can't do it, like it's impossible to catch game with a hawk,
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. People do need to see it sometimes, I guess, to believe it. Yeah. But I mean, it's in that regard, especially here in places like Kansas, where there's a lot of farmland and rabbits, especially jackrabbits and stuff, are considered a nuisance and everything. Once people learn that, because I think the hesitation for a lot of people, like you mentioned, is that, there's a lot of people that don't understand that you can kind of spin a proposition in a way that you're doing them a favor, right? Yes. And so when people understand that, it becomes a little bit easier to get that confidence to approach people.
Years ago up in Kearney, Nebraska, I saw this beautiful farm, and I said, let's pull in there. Asked this farmer if we can hunt, and he was a wonderful guy, Steve Favinger. And he said, oh, yeah, I own 4 sections here, and my brother owns these remaining sections. And he said, come back tomorrow. So we came back the next day. He had one of those county plot maps. He had it all color-coded with the different farmers' names, their phone numbers, and we had permission on all of this land in this booklet. And we've been back to Kearney 4 times already, and their family, the whole, I've seen the grandson that went with us the first time. He was just a young boy, 12 years old. Now he's grown, has a family, has a farm. It's marvelous.
Huh. Man, that's cool. It's always nice whenever our lives are made that much easier by that kind of thing.
It is.
I mean, sometimes you just never know who you're going to talk to, and you never know who they know and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, just a little bit of initial bravery and getting out of your comfort zone can lead to some pretty cool stuff.
It's always nice to go to an area and you've got good set hunting grounds. And so you can take a new person, that first NAFA meet, take them out there, get them on game, watch them be successful. When I got into falconry, there weren't as many women in it. Now it has exploded with these young women. And it tickles me more than anything because at the banquet, they will announce all of the apprentices and what they caught. And they'll say, first NAFA meet, apprentice, first red tail, caught a jack. And that's just the best feeling.
Yeah, it's whenever people feel like there's, some kind of, they've done something, cool and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we want people that get into this to stay in it, but stay in it for the right reasons and do the right things for the right reasons.
That's it.
It's always nice seeing people get excited and want to, foster even more involvement, be better overall ambassadors for the sport and everything. So
I see a lot of people that put a lot of time, a lot of effort into NAFA. And I feel like I do my part by, like you said, promoting it and meeting these young people and showing them all the fun you can have for so many years.
Yeah. And, kind of going back to the point of my presentation that I did Wednesday evening, it doesn't mean, like, giving back doesn't mean that you have to, like, all of a sudden, okay, now I've got to be NAFA president, monitor all these rules, regulations and stuff. It could be something just like what you just said. I mean, it doesn't seem like much on the surface, but whenever you've got 200 plus people in one area and some are struggling to figure out where their place is and what to do and all that kind of stuff, it takes a load off of other people's shoulders whenever other people kind of pick up the ball and say, go ahead and come with me. It's one less thing for other people to have to coordinate and deal with and stuff. And it makes other people's day.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, you mentioned you were getting into falconry, not being very many women. In such a short amount of time, there was kind of this explosion of more women getting into the sport and all that kind of stuff. But, like, as far as your individual situation, I mean, what was it like for you getting into falconry, and how did you initially discover and want to get into it?
When I was a child, my father was a mechanical engineer contractor. So he would have jobs. We would move like every 3 to 6 months. My mother was left behind. At that early on, it was my sister and I. They would get us in a car, and my mom would say, count hawks. And the family still laughs about it, that when I was 2-3 years old, I was hawk crazy. That's all I'd talk about. And then somebody told me red-tail hawk, then it was red-tail hawk, red-tail hawk. And then years later, when I was a late teenager, I was in the landscape, interior-scape business, and met Richard Sloan, a very famous bird artist that built a house. And he asked me if, while he and his wife traveled the world, if I would take care of his house, his atrium in the center of the house, his Harris's hawk, Miss Piggy, and the cats. And so that was the first falconer I ever met. Then years later, after I retired from my businesses, I went to work for LSU Research, and I met a young man, and he started telling me about falconry, and I said, I know falconry. And he said, I'm going hunting Sunday. You want to go? Oh, yes. And I remember his bird, Batiste. She was a big Harris's hawk. We chased this fox squirrel all the way up, like 120 feet up in the tree, and that squirrel jumped. And she hit it about maybe a quarter of the way down, and then just came helicoptering down to the ground, 10 feet from my feet. And it was like a movie stuck in my head. And I told that same story over and over and over again. And that is when I knew that I had to get into it.
Yeah. And were you one of the people, I mean, I don't know approximately like what year you got into it and stuff, but were, rules, regulations, all that kind of stuff, and state and federal, as far as all that goes, was all that stuff already established?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It was, so it was 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
94. And I think sometimes if you live in an area where there's a limited number of falconers, they were all master falconers in my area, 5 of them, but they were all so excited for me to help me and, guide me.
Well, and I think that they could probably tell that, you you had been wanting it for a while. Yes. And whenever someone shows the enthusiasm and the wherewithal, people can usually tell pretty quick who they at least have a pretty good idea is going to stick with it and not ruin things for the rest of them. It's a lot easier also to accept people in, like you said, that whenever there's not very many other people in the area. The problem starts being sometimes is when the group grows a little bit too big, and then next thing you know, you're trying to have to divvy up spots and find more, and then as we all know, every year we keep losing more and more too. So have you guys been running into that where you're at as well?
Not really. We still have a small group there. The only thing about Louisiana that I'm embarrassed about is we do not have a state club. The year that I got into it and got to meet a lot of the falconers in South Louisiana, and they are characters, they had a disagreement down there, and one group called the feds on the other. And they came with battering rams, battered their door down, took all of their paperwork, seized their birds. It was ugly. And that made them disband. And after about 2 years, I said to them, I hate we don't have a club. So they tried to do it a second time. And the other people, we were going to try to keep it more isolated. The other people sued them.
Yeah, that's rough. It's almost, I hate to say it in a way, just from what I've seen, having talked to the amount of people that I have now and been around a little bit, I don't know what's better. In some instances, I think it might actually almost be better to just not have an official club representation as opposed to warring factions and 2 or 3 clubs in the same state and stuff. I don't know. I'm fortunate. I feel like our state club in Indiana, for the most part, is pretty decent. For the most part, most of us, I feel like get along pretty well and all that kind of stuff. And we're very fortunate to have a very good relationship with our state DNR, which makes a huge difference. And so I don't know. What do you think about that then? Having kind of, I know you kind of wish that you had one, but
Well, some years back, Michael Baran lived down there. Michael is quite outgoing and all. And we started up a group with us, and we called it the Red River Dirt Hawkers. And it was wonderful until it was an apprentice, the only apprentice I ever had that disappointed me. And she got on there and started doing things like posting like a Easter bunny and all with the eggs and all. And then this hawk came in and took it away. And I said, we don't do that. That is not falconry. That doesn't represent how we feel, And so we let that one slide because it wasn't good. Now these young fellas that I'm with, they know how to do, they're on YouTube and everything all the time. So we started up our own little group. It's called Hot Pursuit Falconry. And it's so much fun.
Mm-hmm. And, I guess while we're on this topic then, what are your thoughts? I've had many conversations lately with people about social media posting and all that kind of stuff. My personal viewpoint, not that it necessarily matters, it's just my opinion, but I think everybody starting off is so excited to share their falconry with people, right?
Yes.
And there's this kind of need for almost kind of like a chip on the shoulder, like they want to be accepted or viewed that, they're practicing good falconry or they're acceptable falconry by other people. It's kind of want to be kind of accepted, mm-hmm. by other falconers, right?
Yes.
And I think that there's kind of a perception anyway that the best way to do that is to post pictures of every single kill that you've made, and like literally every single day. Doesn't, whatever. I mean, all this kind of stuff. And, I'm not talking bad or talking down about it. I mean, I used to love sharing and posting a lot more than I used to. But then over the years, I'm kind of like, well, why? I quickly realized for myself, why am I worried about other people's perception of what I'm doing?
That's right.
And so, I mean, what are your thoughts on that personally? I mean, did you kind of have that need whenever you started off, or have you ever really felt like you kind of needed that acceptance, or, how is it like for you?
No, I've never been a person that likes the spotlight, but some years ago, the first eagle meet I went to up in Wyoming, it was, I told my husband, this is a once in a lifetime. Well, the next year I went back, so I guess it was twice in a lifetime. And they posted pictures of everybody. And Tyler Sladen, he gets on and he goes, okay, we're going to say, instead of where's Waldo, where's Miss Francie? And here are all these eagle falconers that deserve to be, recognized. And yet everybody is writing in about Miss Francie. Oh, I saw Miss Francie. She was out with Tyler with Chase. And I saw... I'm like, you guys.
So you kind of became a celebrity in your own right then.
Oh, yes. These kids, they love to tease and all. And like I told you, that big van I have, some of the kids started calling me Miss Frizzle. Do you know Miss Frizzle and the Magic School Bus? I didn't even know, but then I became Miss Frizzle. And then just this year, they've started calling me Granny Franny.
Oh, geez.
I love it.
Well, at least I guess it's better to be beloved, right?
Yes.
As opposed to, oh, there's Francie.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, that's cool though. I think that life's a lot easier, at least. Not everybody's going to like everybody and be everybody's cup of tea by any stretch, but it makes life a lot easier whenever you can get along and make friends and with a lot of different folks. But I was just curious though, because everybody seems to kind of take this little bit of a path or journey. Sometimes it forks in different directions for people about, kind of figuring out what this is to them and how they want to, be perceived and known for or whatever. And everybody does different things for different reasons. But I know for me, I quickly lost the desire to really want to share everything I do with everybody.
Yes.
So I was just wondering what that was kind of, like for you. So
no, in fact, most of the posts that go on, other people post things, with my birds and all. I don't.
And just tag you.
Yeah. But I think my niche is meeting young people. And I have met 4 people that were from 6 to 11, and they have gone on to become falconers. And that's where I kind of fit in. And as soon as you meet them, you realize they had that same crazy hawkness that I had as a child. And I love seeing them develop into good falconers and try to, reach out to other people also.
That's really cool. I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be a day. Well, I know in my professional career, what I do for a living, I still like telling this story to people that I remember whenever I was in my early 20s and started into healthcare and all that, the guy that's still a good friend of mine that mentored me the most in my early days, we would have these students come in that were, even my age or younger, super young, super young, and be like, oh, I graduated or I was born in 2000, whatever and stuff. And I just look over at Jeff and be like, hey, Jeff, did you know that you graduated high school the year that I was born? That kind of thing. And he goes, now, Now, Jonathan, I'm just going to tell you, one day you're going to be sitting in some room doing some kind of therapy, whatever, and then some other students are going to walk in and the same conversation is going to happen. And then somebody's going to say that, they were born the year that you graduated and so on and so forth. And then I've thought about it so many, that stuff's already happened so many times. I mean, and it's just like, but I mean, that's so cool that you've had a chance to see, people go from super young, help foster that interest and stuff, and then go on to become decent stewards for the sport. It's cool.
I have two of my favorite stories. Was the one that I met the boy. He wrote me a letter. He was 11 years old, very proper, very serious. But at the end of the letter, saying he had a lot of time, he was 11 years old. At the bottom, in very large print, he wrote, please call me. And he's an attorney up in Oklahoma City now. He has 3 little girls. We're very close to the family. And the younger brother, Thomas, he was very good with graphics and all. And at the time, I was flying a Farouge Harris hybrid, and she was gorgeous. And they took a picture of me and had her on the glove holding her up, and her wings were spread. So the first Christmas, Robert sketched me a picture of my red-tailed bell, and it was perfect. And Thomas said, I have a surprise for you too. And he runs downstairs and he says to me, this is a question, a clue. What is the rarest bird in the world? And I'm like, harpy eagle? No. Marshall eagle? No. Philippine eagle? No. I was running out of things that I thought might be. He holds up this picture. He goes, it's a Francie Farouge. He had superimposed my face on this bird. It tickled me to no end. And the other good one was, I met we do bodka in National Hunting and Fishing Days. Met this young boy, and he was 6 years old. And he wouldn't leave our area. He just wanted to stay there and talk and talk and talk. And finally his dad said, well, come on now, we need to head on. He goes, oh, I've got a question. And I said, what? He goes, do you think you'll still be alive when I become 14?
Kids, man.
Yeah, that's the greatest.
Oh, there's just so, and what makes their brutal honesty so amazing is just the complete innocence behind it.
Yes.
There's like no real malice. It's just like, there's just no filter there yet. It's just so funny. Yeah. I'm happy that you found your niche and you enjoy doing that, fostering the, younger people and you enjoy bringing them along and do all that kind of stuff. And like I said, there's a lot of good that comes out of that whenever you have nice people that are willing to do that. So, yes. Tell me more about the Farouge Harris.
There are some biologists that believe that Farouge is actually a booted eagle. It does not belong to the Bootio family. And years ago, 2 of my very best friends that I met by accident, Jack Stoddard and Lou Boyce, they went out with us. And my friend Rusty Scarborough had a younger Farouge Harris. And they picked out the differences, but they said, these birds are definitely mixed up. You always think you're going to get the best qualities of 2 different species. And she was quite aggressive, a one-time kill. If you approached her, she was going to come and grapple you in the legs. She was a difficult bird, but the most beautiful thing I'd ever flown.
Did you get it did you imprint or did you captive, or was it parent reared?
It was parent reared up in Virginia. And she definitely didn't like men, but then I saw how the one man handled her, and I could understand that. So, yeah, but she was a beast. And when we hunted like the open plains like this, she would sit there and just, you know, how they lean forward and their eyes are on it and they lean and they lean. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that jack is gone. She would wait until it was a distance away before she did any chasing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. There's some, and maybe that's just because, like I said, that was probably definitely the Faroug
Yes,
coming
definitely.
out. Yeah, I mean, I know some people that have tried hunting with Farougs before, and it didn't translate well because obviously the Farougs are more open plains, big open area kind of birds and all that kind of stuff, and that doesn't really translate well to more woodsy Midwestern kind of areas where
Yes.
there's not a lot of big open areas to hunt with open slips and stuff like that. But that's interesting to hear. I mean, what were you primarily trying to do that, or were you also trying to do squirrel hawking and stuff?
Squirrel hawking back home, yes.
Yeah.
But we had an open area with swamp rabbits occasionally, but like Jack Stoddard would point out, whenever she would even if she didn't make the catch and she was on the ground when you approached her, she would stand off to the side and put one wing out. And he said, that's an eagle stance. That's not. He said, that's why people think that they're actually a booted eagle. And found that fascinating.
It is. I've not heard that before, but like I said, they're kind of interesting birds in their own little niche anyway. If you ever had a chance to see one up close, it's like just the kind of how they have that frog mouth and everything. It's kind of interesting to see up close. You're like, you're not you're kind of your own thing.
Well, when she'd catch a rabbit, she'd rip a back leg off and swallow it whole, and you could see it protruding from her crop on one side. She was a beast. We had a friend, she just passed away last year, Lila and John Green from the UK, and she was the NAFA liaison over there. She flew a Faroug for years and was very successable with it.
More in the like more open area type setups like that. Yeah, I don't know. There's all kinds of different situations and species that I know personally I would like to know more about and see in person, and there's so much stuff. To be honest, every time I come to a NAFA meet or some of these other meets and like I actually said this to Chase the other night, I was just like, man, we've been in the same place at the same time multiple times now. And every time, I swear, I'm going to put aside time to get out with you and see this, see the eagle fly and everything. I still haven't even seen a golden eagle fly in person yet. So it's like, I don't know. It would be cool to see Farougs, golden eagles. And there's still a lot of stuff I haven't had a chance to see yet. Is there anything in particular you haven't seen yet that you'd like to see?
Now I've been able to see, the falcons and, of course, the eagles at the eagle meet. And I love going out with Chase because as we're going, he explains things. He gives you so much information. He's just an awesome person. And the one time that we were out there, he had his bird Dexter. Dexter is unbelievable, but he had a new... I think it was a Marshall Eagle juvie. And he flew her, and she chased, and she missed, and she sat out there, and he said, I don't call her back. I let her kind of figure things out. And he said, she's out there like solving the world problems and everything. And I love to see how he handled an eagle, not kind of forcing it to do something or doing it by his schedule. And I think that's why he's such a good falconer or eagle handler.
I imagine it's probably hard to make a golden eagle do something it doesn't want to do.
Right.
just gonna, make that assumption, I guess. But
years ago, we were at a meet. I have a dear friend, Greg Stipp from He was in Oklahoma City at the time. And we get to a NAFA meeting. He goes, Miss Francie, I need your help. And I said, what? He goes, I need you to help babysit for me. I'm like, what? I thought he was talking about one of his Weimaraners. He said, somebody approached me up there. Their daughter is very interested in falconry. And he said, I'll give you all the money to pay for your trip and everything if you take her with you. It was Lauren McGow. And to see her, grow up, develop, do things that there will never be another young girl that has done what Lauren has done, to go over to Kazakhstan and Mongolia, spent months over there with the eagles and is successful. She is a remarkable person. And I think, oh my gosh, I remember her when she was just so young and she was...
Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, once again, going back to it, you just never know. You just never know what people are going to turn out to be, who they're going to turn out to be, what they're going to end up doing.
Yes.
That's so cool. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it still amazes me just what ends up like. There's been a lot of instances just in my short time in this where I've thought, I wonder, and then you wonder about a certain situation, a certain person, or whatever, kind of how things are going to end up being. I know like the group that I primarily hunt with, thought that I was going to fail miserably whenever I initially got into it because I had no hunting background whatsoever. I was kind of testing them with a lot of my nerdy tendencies and stuff when I was getting out in the field with them and whatever. And they didn't take me seriously like at all, the first, I don't know, whatever, like couple of years and all that kind of stuff. And then we end up coming out here, hunting jackrabbits. The first Harris I flew, took a couple of jacks when we were out here and so on and so forth. And, just from a personal perspective in that regard, I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's relatable. You just never know kind of how things are going to turn out with all that. But I know like whenever you're going back to whenever you initially got into things or going back to initially when you got into falconry, did you think things would, go as well for you as they did? I mean, did you have any kind of adversity getting into it, going back to the whole, there weren't as many female falconers, getting into it. And so I know I've talked to some of the people that have been in this for a long time, especially some of the, the women that I know, said that there's, especially like, a long time ago, there's, it was kind of an uphill battle for them for a little bit, kind of being taken seriously and all that kind of stuff. I mean, did you run into any of that yourself? Or
No, I think it was because the 5 master falconers in my area were already highly respected. And I grew up, my mother and father's family were from up around Lake Erie. They were all fishermen. Nobody was a hunter in the family. Rusty Scarborough, well, even the others were worried that I was more of a bunny hugger because I loved animals. And one of the first hunts I was out with Rusty, where we live, sometimes there's old homesteads and there'll be fences that are buried, and he caught his toe on a fence that was maybe 6 inches out of the ground and did a face plant, knocked his glasses off, knocked the wind out of him. His bird caught this big fox squirrel and he's squeaking at me, dispatch, dispatch. And I went over and I dispatched that squirrel. And then I turned to him and I said, you phony. You did that on purpose to see if I could handle it. He goes, no, I couldn't even breathe. I said, I think that you were a phony. I think you did that.
Yeah, his blood's just running down his face and, he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's faking it all right. As he almost needs an ambulance to go to the hospital and get out of the field. But yeah, well, that's cool though that you were fortunate enough to land in a situation that you didn't have to like struggle kind of against the grain or anything. I mean, even under normal circumstances, I don't even, well, I put the word normal in quotation marks, but everybody is kind of either blessed or cursed by their individual circumstances at times. And it's hard enough in a way, although it's easier, I think, now than ever to get into falconry.
I do too.
But everybody's certain circumstance, sometimes it's a much bigger hurdle, for people. So I was just curious what that was like,
Well, the two of the stories that come back with the falconers in my area, Bob Hauser, when he got into falconry, there was one old drunk, did not do falconry anymore, but he sponsored Bob. But Bob was all self-taught, and he is so wonderful. And Bernie Tull, he was like an IT guy, and he had a bird named Angel, and Bob had Strychnine and Sweetie. And after I had gotten a bird that had been seized by the federal government that I still fly, Nova, they took me out. And it was so funny because their birds, like the cat squirrels, all they would do would be to chase and hem up the fox squirrels, and Nova would go in and catch it. She caught 6 big fox squirrels that day. Well, as we had started out the day, I said to him, if there's anything that you see that I'm doing and can offer me advice, please do it. Don't think you'll hurt my feelings. So at the end of the hunt, we're walking back to the truck, and these birds are following us, and Bernie said to me, "Now, Francie, I usually don't do this, but you were the one that opened it up." He said, "I do have some advice." He said, that bird just isn't any good. He said, you need to get rid of her and find another one. And Bob Hauser has this marvelous laugh. He starts laughing. He goes, "Let me translate this. She's not any good, so you need to give her to me," to Bernie. And it, that's the type of falconry family I started out with, was like them. And the next year we were at that same very spot, and we're along the Red River, so we have the levees and then step downs to the river and to oxbows and all. And they had beat me out there to the field that day because I have to go all the way up to cross a bridge and then head south. And they were out there, and all of a sudden there was a streak in the sky. They started looking at it and all, trying to figure out, what the devil is this? And it was the Challenger coming down when it came down in East Texas. When we got back to the truck, Bernie got on his computer and he plotted it out. He said, whatever it was, meteor or something, this is where it landed, over in East Texas. He was like within 15 miles of where the biggest portion of that came down. And that, you think about going through a time like that with falconry people, and it was a somber day.
I bet.
Yes.
I bet. Yeah, well, as sad as it is, sometimes it takes things like that to kind of keep things in perspective for us.
We didn't find out until later in the day when we got home what it was.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah. And sometimes we get mad and feel like our day's ruined because we didn't come home with like a bunny in the bag or whatever, just to kind of keep things in perspective. I know I've had to work on that a lot over the years, to not let my overall life perspective be ruined based on one mediocre, day of falconry or something, and I feel like I've gotten better about it over the years, but stuff like that definitely keeps things in perspective.
It never bothers me. I love the flights, especially we do squirrel hawking. It's the most exciting falconry there is.
Completely agree, yeah.
And it just doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, I like the just the constant 3-dimensional aspect of that. And,
yes.
and of course, falcons and a stoop and everything, that's of course the same kind of thing, but just the constant up, down, up, down, up, down, around, corkscrew.
Yeah. Hitting a nest and ripping it
apart.
Yeah. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm glad. I'm always happy to hear other people just talk so glowingly about squirrel hawking, and I wish I'd have gotten into it so much sooner than I did. But so is squirrel hawking pretty much been primarily what you've done since the beginning?
At one time, I had a 160-acre field that was full of rabbits, and it was so much fun. So it was squirrel hawking and the rabbit hawking. And then some developer came in, bulldozed everything down, planted 2 years of crops, and never harvested the crops. They collected the crop insurance off of it, and they ruined one of the most spectacular places I've ever been. It was sad. But, yep.
Yeah, that's always a somber thing to talk about too. There's some fields that we've lost that have just been absolutely amazing also. Mm-hmm. Like good enough that you could literally hunt that field for a whole season with multiple birds. Yes. And not even put a den in it.
Well, that's what, Matt Molinex, when he talks about flying micros, it's because down there in Baton Rouge, they've lost so much of their land. And this young girl that was with us yesterday, she's from Oklahoma City, and her sponsor is a good friend of mine, Rob Rainey. And she said he'll drive around town and he goes, you see where this target is? That used to be one of our good hunting fields. Mm-hmm. She said everything is built up now up there.
Yep. And for a short amount of time as I've been in it, almost 10 years, I can do the same thing. I can drive around where I live and literally point out that used to be a great field. That used to be a great field. See that apartment complex over there? That was our go-to, guarantee, sweet spot, whatever, so on and so forth. Same thing. It just sucks,
Well, talking about falconry, Bob Hauser's bird, her name was strychnine, like strychnine poison, and she was deadly. And his knees started giving him trouble, and he came to me and he said, Francie, I want you to have strychnine. And I said, Bob, and he goes, no, I know how you take care of your birds. I want you to have strychnine. And so I had her, and I hunted her for 3 years with my cast. So we had a triple cast going on and had so much fun. And then I put her in a propagation program, and she raised some awesome babies. And I wish I would have kept one of her babies. I do have a 2006 hatch out of Rita, my other main breeder. And just last December, I lost strychnine and Rita. They were 33 and 32. And then this other bird that I fly, Nova, she was the one that was seized when she was 4 years old. And I've flown her for 25 years. And then the young bird that I have, the 2006 hatch, they've flown together for 18 years. And that's one thing that, when I come like to NAFA, people want to introduce me to other folks and say, this lady has not just one old bird. She had, 3 very old birds that have outlived their normal lifespan. And they go, are you still flying the 29-year-old? I said, yep, every day this week. She was out in the field with us.
Yeah, they can, and that old, it's great if they're with a single person, that long, but having tried flown a Harris before that was an older Harris that came from somebody else that was with that person the whole time. That's a situation I don't think I'll ever do ever again. It's hard to get them out of their set ways with their set person, after that long of a time. But
well, that's what Rusty Scarborough, who was my sponsor, he said, don't get it, don't do it, because the feds called me. They had 11 birds they had to place, and I had an open-ended propagation program, so I could have had as many as I wanted, but I went down and I chose her, and she and I have quite a relationship. I love that bird.
That's good. Well, and so have Harris's then pretty much for a long time, obviously have been your primary, or have you flown anything else other than them for?
No, just 2 red tails, the Farouge Harris hybrid, and then I've had these girls for a long time.
And been content with the Harris's for the rest of the time.
And a lot of people don't understand. Some people give red tails not enough credit. Red tails are fabulous birds, and but they're so anxious to get out of their apprenticeship and get something that they feel is, higher up, and they will bounce around, get a coop, try a kestrel, do this, do that. They never develop this relationship of 20 plus years with a bird. It's like going to the woods with an old friend, with old friends,
Sure. Well, and I fell into that trap too. I wanted to do all the things.
Yes.
Do all the things. And I'm here to tell anybody that bothers to listen, I do whatever you want, but that's not always the best path.
No.
That's all I've got to say about that. I know for me, it definitely, I feel like I put myself back on some valuable experience because I just wanted to do all the things, and I wish I don't regret it because it was still experience in its own way, but it wasn't always a fun experience.
Well, just like going out now, people that have been with me before, when we finish flying my birds, they go, watch this. She goes and opens up the back door of her van, opens up a giant hood, the bird flies in. Here comes the other one, she flies in, and they're like, how do you get them to do that?
Repetition is the mother of learning.
That's it.
Yep. Well, so you've already shared some cool stories, but as far as particular hunting story or hunting experience with one of your favorite birds, go ahead and share one or two of those if you don't mind, and then we can come close to wrapping this up and going about the day.
Well, I would like to mention the 2 older falconers who we lost already. Jack Stoddard had an eagle, a pre-act eagle. He was at the original meeting where they put NAFA together, and he was a teenager. And he had this eagle, and so it was, what do they call it?
Like grandfathered in?
Grandfathered in, yes. And we were at a meet. I saw this gentleman with this bird, but it was a falcon. It was a red-naped Shaheen. And I approached him at the weathering yard and started talking to him. And he said, well, I'm fixing to take her out. Would you like to go with me? I said, oh, yes. I said, I've got 2 buddies with me. He said, it's fine. You can come. So later that evening, they were saying, well, what did you do today? We flew our birds. And I said, and then we went out with this falconer named Jack Stoddard. And everybody's like, Jack doesn't ask anybody to go with him. And one of the fellas said, that's like going to a golf course, walking up to somebody to talk to them. They ask you if you want to play 9 holes, and you find out it's Jack Nicholas. Then I met Lou Royce, and he had a bird named Arrow that he loved. We were in Amarillo and out by the weathering yard, and this motorcycle pulls up. And this guy gets off, and he comes over to talk to us and all, and he was so funny. And he said, anybody looking for pheasants? And those boys were like, oh, yeah, pheasants. And he owned a bar up in Dumas. And so we were asking him how far away. Well, everything was in how many beers can I drink between here and there. And he said, about a 12-pack away. So the next day we went with them in Jack's truck. And we get up there to this field, and it was soybeans on one side, cut corn on the other or something. And these pheasants started piling out, hundreds of them, and most of them were cock pheasants. And it was just like, we stood there with our mouths open. The falcons were up on a pole just watching them go by, too many to pick from and all. But that day was so glorious. And on the way back, we were just goofing around so much, we realized we needed to get back to get our birds out of the weathering yard. So Jack is driving like a madman. He and Lou are in the front. Rusty and I are in the back. I had just opened up a can of Diet Coke, and there was a railroad track. It was all grown up. The stop sign was down in the ditch. He hits that railroad track, and it was the Dukes of Hazzard. All four wheels left the ground. We hit. On his dashboard, he had traditional hoods and pigeon harnesses. Everything went in the air, flipped over, landed back on the dashboard. My Coke is floating in the air. And Lou voice is like, Jesus Christ, Jack, you're going to kill us all.
Did anybody get a concussion or anything from hitting their heads on the top of the...
we all hit our heads. It was the wildest day.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's a lot of funny stories that you can accumulate over the years doing this for sure. And on that note, before we end with our final thoughts here, while it's fresh in my mind, I know I just published the episode that I did with our mutual friend, Mr. Reynolds. And in the episode, in the recording, he mentioned a particular instance, and I want to get your side of this. A particular instance that happened, a story that he told, where one of your birds got a bunny or something, and you were just having a heck of a time getting over a certain fence, and you guys look over, and there's a bush or something to that degree, and for all of the Lord of the Rings nerds that are listening to this, the scene from the Two Towers where Gimli looks up at Aragorn and just says, "Toss me! You just need to toss me." I heard there was kind of a reenactment of that scene in some regard, and so go ahead and just tell this from your perspective.
Through the years, with my short little legs and everything, Michael Baran used to throw me over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes and jump a creek. And a lot of times they would pick me up and put me over fences and all. But then it started being funny because they decided they would do dwarf tossing. Even if we weren't in the field, they'd look at their watch and they'd go, "What time is it?" And they'd go, "Dwarf tossing time." And I'd be, "Oh, no!"
And next thing you know, you're being tossed like a sack of potatoes. Yeah. So, and do you remember this particular time or this particular instance? He said that he had to toss you over, and you kind of landed in this bush, and just kind of rolled over, gathered yourself, and finished running over to your bird. And
they were wonderful. Just it happened so much. I don't actually remember that time,
one particular time.
But they were always so good to me. Just, oh my Lord,
it's so good. Did they at least toss you in a non-briar bush?
Oh no! And then the best was when we were at this stockyard and there was like a dumpster full of manure, and they kept tossing me in the dumpster. They thought that was so funny, and they'd say, "Oh, she doesn't smell good enough yet," and they'd throw me back in.
Oh.
And Greg Stipp was trying to put me in a 55-gallon barrel at the NAFA meet when John and Lila Green were in town, and Lila's screaming at them, "Oh my, no, you're going to hurt her, you're going to break her."
In the words of Dolph Lundgren, in Rocky IV, it's like if he dies, he dies. It's like that's the kind of the attitude. This is they're stuffing you in this. God. Well, and that this puts a whole new spin and perspective of things, at least from my point of view. You thought this was good treatment.
You have to be loved to have somebody do that.
Of course. Yeah, you have to be loved to have somebody toss you in a dumpster full of manure. That just means they love you.
That's it.
There were a lot of freshmen in high school that apparently were loved by those seniors then.
Oh, yes.
Back in the day. Oh, that's so funny. Well, Is there anything else that you feel like is noteworthy story-wise sharing before any particular, good flight or hunt of your own that you can think of as far as?
Well, maybe the first time that I took Nova out on jacks, and there was a gentleman that was an eagle falconer from Oklahoma, Oscar Pack, and he was such a, he wasn't a showboat with his bird or anything. He had a wonderful bird. He was an excellent falconer. We get out to this field, and we're flying. I think there were 6 Harrises up. And Nova didn't like this line that we had with all the T-perches, and she flew off and landed on an irrigation pivot. And somebody kept saying, bring her back, bring her back. Well, I'd call her back. She'd get back on the T-pole, but wouldn't stay, kept going back to that pivot. And somebody said, you need to put her up. She's going to ruin this hunt. And Oscar spoke up very quietly, and he said, no, she won't ruin this hunt. And maybe 10 steps later, we run this jack. It runs in a big arc, and here it goes, heading straight for that pivot. And she crouches down so low, she caught that jack head on, which at that time I didn't know that's
hard.
That's a hard thing to coordinate.
For even a cottontail, let alone a jackrabbit.
And we get up there, and I'm on my knees. I'm shaking so bad because I couldn't believe it. And then I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I looked up, and it was Oscar Pack, and he winked at me. And I thought, this is the greatest day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There's nothing like your first jack, I think.
I think you're right.
It's one thing, to get your first squirrel, your first cottontail, but man, that first jackrabbit, that's something special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super special for sure. Well, that's awesome. I can't really think of a much better note that we can probably end on for this conversation anyway, but I do want to end like I always do though, and have for a long time though. I do want to get a piece of advice from you that you think would be worthy of passing on to either current or even prospective falconers, and just we'll end on that note.
I would say don't be too serious about things, and the falconer that you are and you become is not based on what someone else's opinion is. It's what you accomplish.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I completely agree with that for sure. I think that so many people get sidetracked or pigeonholed, in a way by worrying about what other people's perception is of them and what they're doing. And you're just kind of handicapping yourself by doing that, I think, in your own development.
You are. And just recently I wrote something. I said, even if you are an experienced falconer, a part of your falconry isn't complete unless you take a child out in the field with you. That just is the greatest thing in the world, to have a child experience that the first time.
And it's even more cool whenever they're actually engaged and interested.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge whenever the kid is kind of what the bird is spooked by. Mm-hmm. Especially when they start like acting all crazy, they're not paying attention and stuff, and yeah, it can that can be a little frustrating sometimes.
Up at one of the Arkansas meets, his father, he was an airline pilot. He had this young son. He showed an interest, but he was at that goofy stage, And I remember that one time they had already talked to him about not picking up stones or pine cones and throwing them, or sticks and all, because the birds had come down and all. But the entire hunt, he's singing this song, "Red Solo Cup, you fill me up."
Let's have a party. Yeah.
But that's all he'd repeat over and over and over. And one of the guys got really upset about it. And so the next year for Christmas, we all sent him Red Solo Cups.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Oh God. Yeah, there's we've got some fun stories that are kind of similar to that in our group too, but that's beautiful. That I don't know. Like I said, it's I agree with you though. I mean, it's hard to I think there's a lot of people that take themselves overall just a little too seriously and would benefit by realizing, like I've said this a million times before, it's like none of us are out in that field curing cancer.
No.
None of us are solving any world problems or working towards a Nobel Peace Prize or anything like that that's really just going to ultimately benefit humanity. So we have to remember that it's just supposed to be fun. And in the end, even as amazing of a falconer as you might be, ultimately, how much does, number one, anybody truly care other than yourself? Nobody's going to truly care as much about what you're doing as you. Yeah. And so, anyway.
I want to thank you for pursuing me to do this. You've brought up so many wonderful memories of my 30 years in falconry, and thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and thanks for joining me, and I hope you had a good time. And this has been a fun conversation. I really appreciate you saying yes and not putting up too much of a.
Yeah, you didn't have to throw me in a dumpster or anything.
I was going to say, if I'd have known it was going to be that easy, I would have just stuffed you in one of these trash cans out front or something and just be like, now can we do a recording? Or now can we, Francie? Really? I mean, do I need to find another one somewhere? Like, if I find the dumpster where they've been supposedly throwing all the dog poop that they've been having issues with this whole meet and stuff too, maybe that would have done the trick. All right. Well, it's been a great morning. This has been a great conversation, Francie. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day. This has been a good week, and it's been a nice cap to the week. So thank you.
Thank you.